Alrighty, so all 15 games from tonight's match week number 33 Saturday night action is in the books, and once again I'm doing part number 1 of this review on the road and from the hotel. I think this is the second time I am doing one of these because I remember last time when I did a review of part number 1 I was in a hotel in Austin. Today of course I'm in a hotel here in Minneapolis. Well, technically it's actually Bloomington, but I'm not actually that far from Minneapolis. In fact, I'm not quite sure you can kind of see it out on the window, but right where I'm pointing right there, that's pretty much downtown Minneapolis right there. I'm very blessed the fact that I'm staying in a hotel room where I get a very good outlook not only to the airport but also to downtown Minneapolis in the distance as well. And obviously in a couple of days I will be there again, just a little bit east of the city to Allianz Field to watch that semifinal of the U.S. Open Cup. I'm also going to be there tomorrow to watch the Sunday night football game between the Falcons and the Vikings. I'm very excited about that as well. But either way, enough of me kind of do some rambling. For this part number 1, I'm going to do it a little different. I'm actually going to do reverse order when it comes to looking at these 15 games happening on Saturday night. I'm actually going to first look at the first 7 games, which these are the games that I was able to watch because, again, because there's just so many games that's happened at the same time, especially around the 7:30 window, where I didn't really have a lot of time to watch that because I didn't get to check into the hotel until like around 6:45, and you think, well, 7:30, I should still have time to watch those games, right? Well, that was Eastern time. This is 6:45 Central time. That is I'm checking in, so technically all the games are already started. Again, it was really tough for me to try to keep track of everything, but let us begin by talking about the game that I actually was going to go to. This game have I not changed my plan and decided to go to Minnesota and stay here in Minnesota as well for a couple of days before heading down south for another semifinal game that I'm going to be attending. I'm going to attend 2 semifinal games, one in Nashville and also one in Minnesota, that is. But I was originally going to go to this one between the San Jose Earthquakes and LAFC at Levi Stadium. And boy, thank goodness I did not go to this one because, yeah, this was a disaster for the San Jose Earthquakes. And this game was pretty much over in just 12 minutes. Like, as soon as the Quakes were down 3-0 after 12 minutes into this game, I basically just say, yep, might as well just put this season on ice. I mean, I know they're still in the midst of the playoff hunt, but still, you cannot be down 3-0 at home. And I know it's technically not at home at Levi Stadium, but still, it is technically a home match for this team, and it was quite embarrassing to see the fact that they were 3-0 down just 12 minutes into this game. And it also is embarrassing to see that they were 1-0 down after just 55 seconds in. In fact, I didn't even get a chance to see the first goal because I was still busy trying to get on Apple TV to click on the game that I actually missed this first goal. By the time I click on it, I already saw 1-0 in favor of LAFC because Sung Hyun Min would score from Snoyukov and Delgado to give LAFC a 1-0 lead. Obviously, there was a lot of Cream fans at Levi Stadium as well. Part of the reason why I think the tickets were hotly sold in this one is because of the fact that, Sun is going to be there. You're going to have those South Korean fans that is going to be in huge force. And the Bay Area has a very big South Korean population as well. So the fact that they're going to be there in force, and they definitely got their wish seeing their main man scoring, and not only just scoring, but scoring just 55 seconds into this one. So that was 1-0 in favor of LAFC, and after giving up that early goal, I thought the Quakes started to dominate some possession, but not much chances really created against this disciplined LAFC defense. In fact, I thought that pretty much just played right into the hands of LAFC, and my worst fear of the Quakes having all the possession and potentially get caught on the transition was all to be seen just a couple of minutes later, because in the 9th minute, Bawanga would score to make it 2-0 in favor of LAFC. It comes off of a lightning counterattack. That's been pretty much one of the biggest Achilles heel for the Quakes this season. They cannot defend transition whatsoever, but that is also one that Daniel should have saved. I mean, that one wasn't really hit too well from Bawanga. It kind of hit right to Daniel. Daniel, I know he has had some games where he has made some incredible save for the Quakes, but there's been times this season, and I think this has happened more times or not this season, that he is letting soft ones like that, and that is not great news for the Quakes, especially of how bad the defense is. We need Daniel to bail this team out. But now, when he's giving up soft goals, things are going wrong for this team, and it kind of continues. Just 2 minutes later, he would score again, as he scored from Palencia to make it 3-0 in favor of LAFC. By the way, hat-trick would be a big story in terms of this week. There was a lot of players that score hat-trick. I think this is the most hat-trick that we've scored, or the most hat-trick that is scored this week by all these players in MLS this season, and maybe even in history as well, because I think we had like 4 players that score a hat-trick in this one. And man, good luck to who to choose who's gonna win the player of the week, because as I mentioned before, anytime when you score a hat-trick, you usually guarantee yourself to be the player of the week. But when you have so many players that score a hat-trick, yeah, that's going to be tough to decide who's going to be player of the week. And it will be kind of hard done for some of those players that did score a hat-trick, and usually that's a guarantee player of the week for you. But nope, because this week there was like 3 other players that also score a hat-trick. But either way, at that point it was 3-0. It definitely did look like that was offside. The Wanga second goal that he scored, the third for LAFC. I mean, when I look on it, they didn't really have a good angle in terms of this, so I guess maybe there wasn't enough definitive evidence. I would also say that, I was kind of surprised they didn't even go to the monitor and maybe have a second look at it, because, again, I look at it a couple of times and I feel like maybe, just maybe, Bawanga was just a step offside. But it also doesn't help the fact that the Quakes did try to play that offside trap. Didn't work whatsoever, and next thing you know, they're 3-0 down after just 11 minutes. And if I wasn't actually doing reviews of these games, I might as well just switch this game off. In fact, I probably should have just switched this game off. I probably should have just focused on another game, because I knew this game was over. Like, there's no way the Quakes are coming back from a 3-0 deficit. As much as I know this season, the 3-0 lead tends to be a more dangerous lead than usual, because we have seen 3-0 lead being blown, or as the case of this week, we almost saw one of the biggest choke job that happened in Atlanta as well, which we'll talk about that in part number 2. But yeah, I knew the Quakes weren't coming back from a 3-0 deficit, though they did kind of made it a little interesting, at least just a couple of minutes later, as Preston Judd would score from a wrong goal to make it 3-1. That also came off a bad turnover from LAFC as well. Defense was definitely optional in the first 18 minutes. Yeah, there was not much defense that was being played on both ends as well. Now, things did eventually tighten up a little bit. Espinoza then had a dangerous cross that was palmed away by Lloris before he denied Espinoza from the free kick. The Quakes did start to provide some sustained pressure to try to get themselves another goal back. Judd would then puts it wide from close in the 4th minute stoppage time, but we do head to halftime with LAFC leading 3-1 in this game. Now, in the second half, Son would puts it high from long range. Not much really happened in the beginning of the second half, and that's good news for LAFC, because as much as I know, I said that, when it was 3-0, even when the Quakes did get one back and maybe trying to make it interesting, I still didn't think that they were going to come back from this, but you never know. Again, it only takes one more goal for the Quakes to make this even more interesting than it needed to be. Judd would then miss wide from the header before Buddha puts it wide from long range. Mwanga would then hits it right to Daniel, and then he hits it right to Daniel again in the 79th minute, as LAFC looking like they're trying to get a 4th goal, and I don't blame them, because, you just want to make sure, put the cherry on the top. Espinoza would then miss wide from close before Lloris tipped Arango shot over. Martinez would then hits it right to Lloris. Also, by the way, if you haven't noticed yet, I'm actually reading the notes off of my phone as well, so you're going to see a lot of this, since of course I don't put the notes on the board, since this board is too small to fit all the notes that I have here on the screen. But I also thought that, after I said Martinez hits it right to Lloris in the 84th minute, I thought these missed chances pretty much just sums up the Quakes this season. Again, it doesn't matter how many shots that the Quakes have had. It doesn't matter how good the chance is. This has also been one of the biggest problems for the Quakes this season. Not finishing chances and not being clinical in front of goal is kind of the reason why they found themselves in the position of them really started to slip away when it comes to the playoff spot. In fact, at the end of tonight, I believe they're now once again outside the playoff position, because pretty much all the team around them were able to get big wins to pass them in the spot. But in the 87th minute, LAFC does get that 4th goal, and Bawanga does complete his hat trick for Palencia to make it 4-1 in that one. And when I saw that play, I'm just thinking, yeah, that defense just gave up. Like that defense just pretty much let LAFC do whatever they needed to kill this game off. But in the 90th minute, Palencia did score an own goal here. So Palencia did some good thing in this game, but that was definitely not one of his proudest moments of scoring an own goal. In fact, I probably should have changed this to SJE instead of LAFC because, again, it's a goal that's scored by the Quakes. So, yeah, that made it 4-2 in this one. It didn't really matter because there was just way too little time for the Quakes to do something crazy late in this one. And in the end, LAFC, they do get the 4-2 win in this one. The shots in this one, 18 shots with the 9 that LAFC had. So, again, on paper, it looked like the Quakes did pretty well in this game. They doubled the amount of shots that LAFC had in this one. But the shots on goal pretty much tells the story. 6 shots on goal for the 4 that the Quakes had. 6 shots off target for the 1 that LAFC had. 1 shot that was blocked for the 6 that the Quakes had. And possession-wise, 64% possession compared to 36% possession that LAFC has in this game. The playoffs are definitely slipping away from the Quakes. And even though I packed it in, it seems like the Quakes season is going to be done, even though realistically they're not at that close in terms of being eliminated. It just kind of feels like it with the way how these last 2 games has gone. I mean, let me just take a look at the table real quick here since I have it here on my phone. So, yeah, on the table right now, somehow actually they still say the Quakes are above the playoff line. I have no idea how is that possible. Let me just, I don't know if Google actually updated this. They probably didn't update this, so I'm pretty much going to have to just refresh this. Actually, let me look on the app right now real quick. I'm pretty sure they say that. Now the app is freezing itself out. Okay, again, either way, you get what I mean. The fact that things are really slipping away for this team, and again, it doesn't get any easier for them in terms of the remaining schedule. I mean, they still have San Diego that they have to play, and that game is on the road as well. And even though I know San Diego, of course, slipped up tonight, which we'll get to that game in just a bit, yeah, I just think the last couple of games, and with the way how bad this defense is, and also this attack not scoring the goals and not being clinical, that's a recipe of a September collapse, and I can see that happen again. I've seen it before with Quakes collapse in September, and it feels like it's going to happen once again this season as well. Now, moving on in terms of the next match. Speaking of September collapse, for Chicago, this is better not be the beginning of the end for this team. And what's a shame for the Fire in this one is that, or what's such a shame in this one is that Chicago started well in this one. I mean, they looked like they were going to win this one. They had a 1-0 lead in this one and had a couple of good opportunities in this one, even when they found themselves giving up the equalizer late in the first half. But unfortunately, this was another one of those games where the team that were more clinical in terms of putting the ball in the back net ends up on the winning side. That would be a theme in terms of some of these later games as well. But as expected, we kind of did see a little bit of an MLS 1.0 nostalgia. You got the football lines overlapping the soccer line as well. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I mean, I thought it was pretty obvious. I mean, you do still see the football lines as well, and even where the goal is, you still see the Bears end zone kind of logo right near the end. But at least it's not as egregious as it is, and I'm glad that was the case. But again, the good news for Chicago is that they only have to deal with this for 3 more seasons, because in 2028 they're going to have their own soccer-specific stadium not far from Soldier Field. And in the first half, and just 9 minutes in, I mentioned NYCFC was on the front foot as they pinned the Fire back, but the Fire actually had the first shot of the game as Kuipers would put it right to freeze, and then in the 12th minute they would score to make it 1-0 in this one, as Zickanago would score from Gutierrez to give the Fire a 1-0 lead. Gray did look to answer, but he missed high in the 15th minute. And despite all the possession that NYCFC was creating, they weren't really creating any dangerous chances. And part of that is because the Fire was being very disciplined on the defensive end. And also another big part of that is the fact that NYCFC, we've seen it happen this season before, where even when they are controlling the game and dictating the game, they just don't have that creativity or at least move the ball fast enough to find those chances when they're trying to break down a low block But the shots were only 3-1 in favor of the Fire 30 minutes in. Wolf would then hit one right to Brady before Brady denied Martinez from close range as NYCFC finally started to create some chances, some sustained pressure, trying to get themselves the equalizer. And they do, as in the 40th minute, Nico Fernandez-Markel would score from 0-2 to make it 1-1 in this one. Gutman did look to answer, but he missed wide from close range before Martinez would hit it just wide on the back post. So we head to halftime with the score tied up at 1 apiece. In the second half, Freeze would deny Zinchenko from long range before Brady would deny Martinez from close. Martinez would then hit it wide from close in the 54th minute before Gutierrez puts it just wide from long range in the 55th minute, as both of these teams was definitely exchanging some chances early on and some dangerous chances as well, as both of them definitely were pushing hard to try to get the lead up to this point. Wolf would then puts it high from close in the 57th minute, but then just a couple of seconds later, Alonso Martinez would give the lead for NYCFC, and yeah, the Fire, they pay the price for not clearing their lines from the corner. They dealt with the original cross from the corner, but they just never cleared their lines, and yeah, when you don't do that, more times than not, you're going to get punished. They got punished there as Alonso Martinez was in the right place, right time to bury that one, and just like that, NYCFC has the lead for the first time tonight. Kuiper did look to a response, but he could not tap this one in before Dean would hit one right to Freeze. The Fire definitely has the momentum. They were trying to push to get the equalizer. I thought NYCFC was starting to hang on a little bit. They were kind of doing a little row heave mode a little bit, just hang on for dear life and not having the same amount of possession. And when you do that, I mean, more times or not, that usually does not bode well for a road team as well. But it did, because after Guzman hits it over from close range and then Zinchenko puts it wide from the free kick in the first minute of stoppage time, in the third minute of stoppage time, Seymour recalls game. So he scored here from Tavon Gray to make it 3-1 in favor of NYCFC. I believe that's the first goal that Seymour has scored, if I'm not mistaken. But nevertheless, that was pretty much lights out in this one. That was the goal that NYCFC desperately needed to seal a massive 3 points in this one. And then they had a chance to make it 4-1 when Maxi Morales trying to curls one in to make it 4-1, but he puts this one wide. But yeah, in the end, NYCFC, a big road win and a big response after, again, this is the thing about NYCFC this season. I just don't understand this with them. This season it's been kind of weird seeing this team, how they tend to do much better at home when they do face against good opposition, but then when they do face against some easy opposition, whether it's at home or on the road, they struggle against them. And Chicago is definitely considered to be a good opposition, especially they're kind of pretty close in the standings. In fact, I mentioned this would be a preview of the play-in round of the Eastern Conference if the playoffs started today, and if this is how the resort goes, and especially with the way that NYCFC has had the better history and has Chicago number in recent memory, this is definitely the matchup that NYCFC would want to have, even if that means that this game is going to have to be played at Yankee Stadium or whatever stadium they're going to be playing for that wild card round in the playoffs. But for Chicago, like I said, this is better not be the beginning of the end for this team. And again, one of the other thing about the Fire that is a little bit frustrating, and maybe this is why people are saying that even if they make it to the playoffs, it's probably going to be a one and done. They can't beat quality opponent. So far this season, they have pretty much struggled against all teams that are quality opponent, all teams that are above the red line. And I know that sometimes you obviously need to beat the team that you should beat, and the Fire has done a good job for the most part doing that. But if you cannot beat some of your tougher opponent, especially a team that you might be facing in the play-in round of the wild card, I mean, obviously I think Fire fans will be jubilant that they're finally back in the playoffs for the first time since 2017, but it will be kind of bittersweet, the fact that they're back in the playoffs, but instantly they're out of the playoffs because they simply cannot beat a competent team. And like I said before, hopefully this is not the beginning of the narrative again, where this team single-handedly backed themselves out of the playoffs. They did get help at least from Portland tonight, as I'll mention in just a bit. A little spoiler alert: the fact that Portland kind of helped them out, that they didn't really lose any ground whatsoever of staying above the red line, because Red Bulls weren't able to win their games. Now, moving on into the next game, to a game that, man oh man, I did not see this one coming. I mean, I understand that, yes, the Union did play a little weaker team, at least in the first half, that is, because, they're definitely prioritize the U.S. Open Cup semifinal game when they have to go on the road against Nashville. But still, I did not see this coming with the way that Vancouver would basically go back to the form that they were in the beginning of the season. I mean, I talked about before in the beginning of the season where nobody could stop the Vancouver Whitecaps. They were an absolute wagon in the beginning of the season, and it feels like they showed that in this game against the Union. I mean, it was kind of surreal seeing how much they absolutely ripped apart the Union in this one. Now, in the first half, Muller would hit one right to Rake, as I thought Vancouver started off the better side. They were looking for the lead. Blackman would then hit it wide from close before Rios would miss a sitter from close range. Vancouver was definitely knocking on the door, but the question is, can they show that clinical finishing that they were missing early in the game? Well, the answer is a resounding yes, because after I wrote that, Vancouver would take the lead. Laborda would score from Berhalter to make it 1-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. Ilosky did look to answer on the free kick, but he puts this one high. This is the second time that Milan Ilosky is playing against the Vancouver Whitecaps at BC Place. Last time that happened, he scored 4 goals. I think Vancouver probably learned from that experience, and they did a much better job in this game, shutting down Milan Ilosky, though it's not really hard to do considering the fact that Vancouver were pretty much cruising throughout this entire game, because just a couple of minutes after that attempt for the Union, they would make it 2-0 as in the 24th minute, Emmanuel Sapi would score from Ahmed to make it 2-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. Ahmed then trying to make it 3-0. He went beast mode here, but just could not quite get too much contact in terms of the shot and hits it right to Rick. The Union, they pretty much have not shown up whatsoever in this game. And I understand, yes, they do have a big semifinal game against Nashville in the U.S. Open Cup, which I'm going to be going to that one in a couple of days. But still, I mean, this is bad in terms of how things have gone. They're basically all over the place at the back, especially on the flank area. I mean, throughout this game, they had no answer whatsoever in terms of stopping these speedy players that the Whitecap has, especially on the flank. And then in the 28th minute, a penalty was given to Vancouver as Bueno handballed this one. Nobody actually realized that this was a handball. Like, nobody even realized, not even the people in the stadium or even the commentator realized that this was a penalty. This was kind of a really big surprise, and I think a big part of that is the referee didn't really kind of blow the whistle, and he didn't even do the notion to point to the spot there. So yeah, that was kind of a bizarre moment, the fact that it was a penalty, but nobody kind of realized that. But yeah, when you look on the replay, it was pretty clear that Bueno handballed this one. So here comes Thomas Muller, a chance to step up from the penalty. They mentioned a couple of times that this was his birthday, so happy birthday to Thomas Muller, turning 36 today. And he scored from the spot because, of course, he scored from the spot here. He's always a good penalty kick taker, and he buries it to make it 3-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. But in the 40th minute, it looked like the Union got one back as Mikael Uru would put the ball into the back of net. Problem was, VAR looked at it, and they said the goal was disallowed for offside. And I don't think this was the right call. I think this was a wrong call. When you look on the replay, it didn't look like it was offside whatsoever. It was on the development play. I think Bedoya was the one that was in an offside position. It looked like he was level with the last defender. And obviously, I know Union fans will be upset at this moment. But I mean, at the end of this game, they won't be pretty upset about that call, because even if that call goes right in front of them, we'll probably just see a Brazil versus Germany score line by the end of tonight. But yeah, that is one that probably should have counted. It should have been 3-1, but it wasn't. So instead, on the other end, another penalty was given to the Whitecaps, as this time Bedoya brought down Ahmed in the box there. Yeah, Bedoya had a really rough night. This was probably the roughest night that Alejandro Bedoya has. He was basically chasing shadow against these speedy Whitecaps attacker, and here just a clumsy challenge there. It gives a penalty for the Whitecaps. So here comes Thomas Muller again, another chance to score from the spot, and he buries that one too. So it's 4-0 in favor of the Whitecaps, and this is when Bradley Carnell said he had enough. He basically decided to pull some of the starting 11 of this B team and decided to bring in some of his starter as well. I'm not quite sure if this is maybe just punishment, or is this just the fact that at least he maybe get his starters out and see what happened in the second half, because, yeah, whatever kind of starters that he tried to put in the second half, it didn't work whatsoever. But nevertheless, he did bring in Baribo, Wagner, and John Jack into this game, and we do head to halftime with Vancouver leading 4-0. In the second half, Lukic puts it over from close before Rake denied Mula from close range. I didn't really pay too much attention to this game because I knew this was very lopsided, so I didn't write too much notes in the second half. Ocampo would then miss wide from close, but then the 61st minute, Sabi would score for the second time tonight. So he scored from Mula and Berhalter to make it 5-0 in favor of Vancouver. Ahmed looked for number 6, but he missed wide there. And like I said, Vancouver, they look like they're back in their early season form. Just an absolute wagon right now. If this is the Vancouver Whitecaps team that's gonna show like this throughout the rest of the season or even into the playoff as well, nobody's gonna stop this team. Like, no one is going to stop this team with the way how unstoppable they were on the attack and also on the defensive end. And yeah, the Union kind of learned a hard lesson by the end of tonight. Lukic would then hits it right to Takoka in the 73rd minute, but then 81st minute, Vancouver would make it 6. As Ryan Ilalumi would score from Berhalter and Nelson to make it 6-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. That's also his first career MLS goal as well, so special moment for him as well, scoring his first career MLS goal. Sabi did try to go for a hat trick, but he missed wide and was looking for number 7. But you know who did get the hat trick? Thomas Muller, the birthday boy. So he gets the hat trick here in the 80th minute. They mentioned this is actually his first hat trick that he has scored since 2010 when he was still playing with Bayern in the Bundesliga. So yeah, it's been a long time since that has happened. Obviously, it's understandable. Thomas Muller, even though I know he has scored the goals throughout his career, he's not known to be a guy that scored a bunch of goals throughout his career. He's not more known for his assist creativity, but yeah, he scored his first hat trick in 15 years here to make it 7-0, and kind of poetic the fact that he did it on his birthday as well. We also get 4 minutes of stoppage time. That feels like a little bit too much, at least for a 7-0 game. Honestly, I would have just blown for the full-time whistle as soon as we hit 90. I mean, 7-0 like that, there's really no need to play stoppage time. It feels like it's cruel and unusual punishment whenever you have a game this lopsided and you still have to play stoppage time. But nevertheless, what a statement this is from the Vancouver Whitecaps. Absolutely demolishing the Philadelphia Union in this one, scoring 7 in this one. Kind of almost a shades of what we saw with Seattle when they play against Cruz Azul, when they smacked Cruz Azul with 7 goals. And that was a Cruz Azul team that was not a joke whatsoever. But the shots in this one, 20 shots for the 8 that the Union has, 2 shots on goal for the 12 that Vancouver has, 4 shots off target for the 2 that the Union has, 2 shots that was blocked for the 3 that the Union has, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession the Union has in this game. The only good news coming out of this game for the Union is that it's only count as 1 losses, and that they're still actually at the top of the supporter shield standing, because San Diego failed to capitalize in terms of the supporter shield race. But the bad news for the Union in this one, I mean, it's one thing to lose a game, but to lose 7 goals like that's going to really hurt the goal differential. And, with the supporter shield race being very tight this season, goal difference can play a huge part as well. So to have a -7 goal differential like that, oh boy, this is gonna be something that could be coming back to haunt the Union if they don't win the supporter shield. I mean, it's one thing to lose a game, but you just simply cannot lose by that much. That can really hurt your goal differential. And they're also hoping that they need to do a 180 on Tuesday night as well, because it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. I'm assuming they're going to be much better heading into Tuesday. I mean, they have to be. This was just one of those games where, they mentioned this is also the worst loss ever in Union history, which is kind of surprising, but also not surprising, because you usually don't see a 7-0 scoreline in MLS play. But still, there's no doubt they have to be better. This is just equally just one of those nights that is the worst night that the Union have ever played this season, and I'm pretty sure it'll be interesting to see how they respond against Nashville in the semifinal of the U.S. Open Cup on Tuesday. And then moving on into the next game, and before I'm going to have to erase the board here, is RSL and Sporting KC. So this was a game where for RSL, they need to win this one. I mean, this was pretty much an absolute must-win for them. I mean, in some way, you could say it's a must-win for Sporting KC as well if they want to have their faint hopes of the playoffs alive. And actually, now I can get the app up. And yeah, apparently it still says the Quakes are above the red line right now. Don't know how in the world that is the case. Obviously, they don't control their own destiny. RSL actually is only 1 point below the red line, but they do have 2 games in hand, and you assume that they'll probably at least win one of those 2 games in hand. But yeah, coming into this one, they had to win this one against an SKC side that I think you can pretty much stick a 4 in them. I think they're way too far out of the playoff chances. Now, in the first half, 1 minute in, Showery with the game's first shot, but he puts it over before the first shot for RSLC. Ojeda puts it wide after Sporting KC turned the ball over in a bad spot. Olatunji then hits it right to post game. RSL, I thought, started well in this one, looking for an early lead to help their playoff causes. Glad then hits it wide from the corner before Cruz would miss wide from long range on the 22nd minute. Post game then denied Ojeda from long range. RSL continued to knock on the door, but the question is, can they finally capitalize on these opportunities that they missed here in the first half? The answer is yes, because in the 40th minute, Luna would score from Olatunji and Gozo to make it 1-0 in favor of RSL, and there's got to be a lot of relief too, because I feel like as these missed chances was happening, I'm pretty sure RSL fans were familiar with how this team not able to be clinical in front of goal. Fernandez did look to answer on the other end, but he missed one in the 45th minute, but we do head to halftime with RSL leading 1-0. In the second half, Polshkam would absolutely rob Gozo on the doorstep of goal. I mean, Gozo cannot believe how he did not put this one away. Before Cruz would hit it right to Polshkam, RSL was definitely hunting for another with some sustained pressure. And they do get another in the 62nd minute as Catranis would score from Gozo to make it 2-0 in favor of RSL. Tommy did look to answer from long range, but he was denied by Cabral. But Sporting KC did get a lifeline in the 71st minute as Brian Vera unfortunately scored an own goal here to make it 2-1 in this one. And that gave life to Sporting because they started to press to try to get the equalizer. Cabral would deny Jovlich, but it falls right back to him. He got his own rebound, and he hits it right to Cabral on the second attempt. Montes would then puts it wide from close, and you just kind of sense that, that own goal seems like it not only rattled RSL, but you just kind of have a sense that, oh boy, here we go again. Is this going to be one of these games where we just are unable to close out the resort? Good news is they did close out the resort. They kind of started to shut things down late in this game and able to ride out an easy 2-1 win. Well, I say easy, but I would say it was a little more nervy than it needs to be for RSL to get a much needed win in this one. But the shots in this one, 20 shots for the 13 that Sporting KC had, 7 shots on goal for the 3 that Sporting KC had, 5 shots off target for the 6 that RSL had, 5 shots off block for the 4 that Sporting KC had, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that RSL has in this game. And like I said, huge win for RSL. They are pretty much control their own destiny in terms of making the playoffs. They actually have the same points total as I'm looking at the standings compared to FC Dallas, but they do have an extra game in hand as well, and they also have the tiebreaker in terms of wins as well. So they are definitely in a good spot in terms of making the playoffs. That is, of course, if they win those games in hand. Again, I can't say the same about Sporting KC. It just feels like it's slipping away from them when it comes to the playoffs. Right now, as I'm looking right now, they're 8 points back with 4 games to go. It feels like that's a little too much to make up for them in the nearby future. But that being said, I'm now going to erase the board and put up the scoring for the last 3 games that I'm going to talk about in terms of part 1 of this review, looking at the last 7 games, going reverse order this time of the review of match week number 33. Alright, so now looking at another team that got a much needed win that really helped their playoff cause is the Colorado Rapids. And it almost didn't happen in this one. It almost looked like it was a very disappointing points drop for the Colorado Rapids in this game against the Houston Dynamo. Or in the case of the Dynamo, it seems like they were holding on to their fringe playoff hold, but after this loss, it feels like just like Sporting KC, you can maybe start sticking a fork in their playoff chances as well. But in the first half, 2 minutes in, Ponce with the game's first shot, but he puts it high before Navarro missed one from close range. Aronson would then hits it right to Bond in the 7th minute, but then the 10th minute, Cole Bassett would score. Now, this is not really a direct free kick goal because Santos did kind of pass it to him and sets up a better angle. Again, I don't know why more teams don't try that on the free kick. I feel like that's something that teams should try much better so they can get a better angle to bend it over the wall as well. But nevertheless, great free kick kind of goal, albeit a little indirectly there from Cole Bassett. And just like that, the Rapids were up 1-0. Antonio Carlos did look to respond, but he heads this one wide before Dorsey would heads it right to Stefan in the 23rd minute. I thought it was a good response for Houston. They were looking to try to get the equalizer. Ponce tried to do so, but he hits it wide from close before Calvin Harris would poke it wide from close in the 38th minute. Navarro would then puts it right to Bond in the 40th minute. I thought Colorado started to gain some momentum again, now looking to try to get the opener. Artur would then hits it right to Stefan in the 45th minute, but we do head to halftime with the scoreline 1-0 in favor of the Rapids. In the second half, there was a scramble in the Rapids box, and I believe there was a stay there from Stepan from one of the Houston players. I'm not quite sure who is it. It might have been Savchenko there as well, but nevertheless, there was just a madness in the Rapids box, and anytime when that happened, usually eventually your opposition would capitalize, but Houston didn't capitalize on that, and the Rapids kind of pull Houdiniac in terms of that move there. But in the 52nd minute, Larraz would puts it wide on the curler before Linger would head it wide from the free kick. Both of these teams were definitely exchanging some chances and some really dangerous chances as well, looking for this crucial second goal of the game, and it happened in the 67th minute, and it came as an equalizer for the Houston Dynamo. It's Jack McLean. He scored from an alley to tie the game up at 1 apiece for the Dynamo. Calvin Harris did try to respond, but he missed wide on the header before Andrade would head it wide from close in the 82nd minute. All of a sudden, looks like the momentum was with the Dynamo. They're looking to try to win it late. Well, not so fast, because Vines would then hit one right to Bond before Bond would deny Aronson, but it falls to Coutinho. He had an empty net to shoot here, and he just completely missed the target there. So, yeah, that is one that TKP would like to have a redo, but there was no doubt that Colorado was pushing late, and Houston was definitely holding on for a point in this game. Speaking of holding, no pun intended, Bond would deny holding from close in the 6th minute of stoppage time, but then on that same sequence, Andrade would unfortunately score an own goal here. So, yeah, the Rapids, of course, they got the lead back, albeit thanks to an own goal here. And then late in this one, Artur would pick up his second yellow card of the game. It didn't really matter. It's more of a footnote in this one because it was really the last kick of this game. But nevertheless, the Rapids, a big 2-1 win in this one, and pretty much a deserved 2-1 win as well. But there was a lot of shots in this one too. 21 shots for the 16 that the Dynamo had, 7 shots on goal for the 5 that the Dynamo has, 9 shots off target for the 5 that Houston had. Both teams had 4 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that the Houston Dynamo has in this one. And while this win definitely helped the Rapids' case in turn, so them staying above the red line and staying away from the red line for a bit, you can't say the same about the Houston Dynamo. Like I said, in the same case as Sporting KC, you can maybe start to put a fork on Houston cases as well, because I think Houston right now, if I'm looking at the standing on my phone, they are currently in 12th place, and they are they're actually only 2 points out of the playoffs, but keep in mind, teams above them do have games in hand, so depending on how things are going in terms of teams above them, they could realistically be 5 or even set 6 or 7 points out of the playoff position. So, yeah, things are not looking good for the Houston Dynamo. It hasn't been looking good for them in the last couple of weeks. This is why that 1-1 resort against the Galaxy, that one really hurt their cases, because if they had picked up the 3 points in this one loss, especially giving up a late goal, wouldn't hurt as much. And speaking of giving up late goal, that's now back-to-back game. The Houston Dynamo has given up late goals to either drop all 3 points or drop 2 points. That is definitely not a recipe if you want to make a late playoff push. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, speaking of not a recipe of making the playoffs, one recipe to not make the playoffs is to not pick up road points. And that's been the problem for the New York Red Bulls this season. As I mentioned before, if the Red Bulls are going to somehow in some way sustain their record 15 straight season without missing the playoffs, they need to win road games. They didn't do it in this one against the Portland Timbers, and this kind of felt like it was a typical Red Bulls game where they didn't really generate too much chances in terms of that. And while the Timbers did their best in terms of trying to keep the Red Bulls in this game and trying to maybe hand the Red Bulls a point in this one, it wasn't just not meant to be, because the Red Bulls said, nah, you can have the whole home 3 points. We don't do road wins or even get a road draw this season whatsoever. But in the first half, Rojas with the game's first shot, but he missed wide before Anthony missed wide from close in the 5th minute. Timbers were definitely on the front foot. They were looking for the opening goal, and they thought they got it in the 11th minute as Christopher they thought that he scored his first goal in his MLS career. Problem was, the flag did not agree with him there, so the flag did come up for offside. The first shot for the Red Bulls did see Stroud puts it wide from long range, and then Mora would miss wide from close in the 18th minute. The shots were 4-1 for the Timbers early on. It was all Timbers early in this one for the most part, and in the 20th minute, they deserve all that pressure that they put off the opening goal of this game, as Mateus Rojas would score from Valde and Fori to give the Timbers a 1-0 lead, though, that is one that Carlos Cornell would want to have back. And this is kind of the thing I said about Daniel can be the same with Carlos Cornell. As much as Carlos Cornell has made some great saves this season and at times maybe keep the Red Bulls in games as well, he also has given up a lot of soft goals. And this one was definitely one of those soft ones where, it was just kind of like a little looping header that I don't know if Cornell just kind of misjudged that. He thought that he was going to go wide, and it didn't. It just kind of trickled in. It's one that he's got to save it, or at least trying to palm that one away. And didn't happen. So just like that, the Timbers were up 1-0 up to this point. Sofo did look to answer, but he was denied by Pentemes, who actually did spill this one and allow a rebound. Luckily, there was no Red Bulls player in the vicinity, so he was able to claim on the second attempt. And we do head to halftime with the Timbers leading 1-0. In the second half, not much really happened in the beginning of the second half. Frostberg would miss wide from long range in the 53rd minute, but then the 70th minute, he would ties the game up. So he ties it from Nealis to make it 1-1 in this one. By the way, I say Nealis, even though on the website they didn't actually give Nealis an assist, but I'm pretty sure it's Sean Nealis actually make that pass there to set up Emil Frostberg. So I don't know why Nealis didn't get credit for the assist there, but nevertheless, the Timbers thought that he was offside as well. Flag never came up, so that goal of course counted. Good news for the Portland Timbers, they would retake the lead not long after, because in the 73rd minute, Anthony would give the lead back for the Timbers as he scored from Kelsey and Mosquera to make it 2-1 in favor of Portland. So that's got to be very frustrating if you're the Red Bulls. You really need road points, and you really need hope to trying to maybe come from behind and get a big win to help your playoff cause. And you finally got a goal on the road, which is something that has been very rare to see this season for the Red Bulls. And they just gave it right back 3 minutes later. Choupo-Moting would then look to respond, but denied by Pantemis, but then falls back to him, and unfortunately could not quite put this one in. Pantemis actually make another save out of that. It wouldn't have counted either way because the flag would have come up for offside. Kelsey would then heads it right to Cornell before he missed an absolute sitter from point blank in the 87th minute. And even though I know this is the New York Red Bulls and this is a team that doesn't do road points, will that missed chance come back to haunt Kelsey as well? Because that was a huge miss. That should have been 3-1. Should have put the game away for the Portland Timbers. Eli would then heads it wide from close in the 5th minute of stoppage time. But that was pretty much it in this game, as the Portland Timbers, they snapped a winless run that they had going back to before the Leeds Cup happened. Remember, when the Leeds Cup was all over, they still haven't won a game back in MLS play, but they finally do so in this one with a 2-1 win. The shots of this one, 15 shots for the 10 that the Red Bulls had, 4 shots on goal for the 6 that the Timbers had, 4 shots off target for the 3 that the Red Bulls had, 3 shots that was blocked for the 5 that the Timbers had, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to the 45% possession that the Timbers has in this game. And as I mentioned before, the Red Bulls, their playoff chances and them keeping this streak alive, it is in serious jeopardy. And as I mentioned, as long as they don't win road games or pick up road points, they're not making the playoffs. I don't think it's mathematically maybe possible for them to do so, unless if Chicago somehow go through another epic September collapse that we've seen all these years. And even then, I don't know if it might be enough for the Red Bulls to still make it to the playoffs. I mean, yeah, things are looking dire for this team. And as I mentioned, it feels like we might see a deja vu of what we saw back in 2008, where, that was the last time they made MLS Cup, besides last year, that is. And then what happened the very next year after they made MLS Cup? They miss out on the playoffs. It feels like it's going to happen again this year. We're fresh off an MLS Cup appearance. It seems like they're going to follow that tradition in 2009, and that, of course, is miss out on the playoffs, which is the last time they missed out on the playoffs as well. Now, moving on into the final game of part number 1, and this is one that kind of got me really, really excited, and that's why I didn't really start the review for a bit as well. I actually had to take a little bit of a walk just to trying to get that excitement out of my system before doing a review as well, because I don't want to get too amped up when I do a review, that is. And the reason why I was so excited about this one is Minnesota somehow pulled off the 3-1 win against San Diego. And honestly, I don't know, would you call this a smash and grab by the Loons in this one? I mean, when you're up 3-0 at one point in this game, it really isn't kind of a smash and grab moment. But when you look at how this game actually play out, I do not know how in the world did Minnesota able to keep this 0-0 for so long. In fact, I thought seeing this game was kind of reminiscent of what we saw last week between Dallas and St. Louis, where St. Louis was peppering the Dallas goal, but somehow they couldn't show any clinical finishing. And this was the same case in this game as well. San Diego was just peppering that Minnesota goal, but somehow in some way, it's just one of those nights where the shooting boots was not there. And they also run into Dane Sinclair that, yeah, these are kind of games that we've seen from Dane Sinclair before, where he can go supernova. And when he goes supernova, yeah, good luck trying to beat him in front of goal. Now, in the first half, Lozano with the first shot of the game, but he missed wide. As expected, San Diego had all the possession. The Loons did try to set deep and counter. That didn't quite work out for the majority of the game. I thought San Diego did a really good job stopping the transitional play. Dane Sinclair then denied Dreyer from close in the 11th minute. The gaps were definitely apparent at the back from the Loons. I mean, early on, San Diego, they were flying early in this one. They were playing some very fluid soccer to really break down this Minnesota defense. And in fact, 11 minutes in, the shots were already 4-0 in favor of San Diego. And there would be more after this as well. There was a shout for a penalty for San Diego not given. Dane Sinclair then denied Dreyer after a bad giveaway from the Loons. Minnesota is just on a tightrope right now. And I just kind of had a sense, eventually one of these chances is going to bury. It is pretty much a matter of time that they're going to go 1-0 down, and it's kind of also a miracle, the fact that they're not 1-0 down 20 minutes in, as it's all San Diego up to this point. Dane Sinclair then denied Pellegrino on the header because, yeah, Pellegrino, he's not allowed to score a goal. I mean, I even wrote, it's good to see that Pellegrino is still snake bitten too, because that was a free header, and again, it doesn't matter what kind of opportunity Pellegrino has. You can have him have an empty net to shoot from 4 yards out, and he'll probably somehow miss that. And believe me, I've seen that happen before from him, and this is why, the Quakes had to let go of him, and it's good to see that, yeah, he definitely has not even the change of scenery has not really changed the fact that he's just completely snake bitten right now. He just cannot find the back of the net whatsoever. But up to that point, the shots were 7-0 for San Diego. Lud with Minnesota first shot of the game, but he heads it wide in the 22nd minute. Little do we know, that would be the only shot of the game for the Loons until literally deep into I wouldn't say deep in the second half, but pretty much for the next 50 minutes of this game. Yeah, that's how much dominance that San Diego has, and that's how much the fact that Minnesota was just going to completely pin in their own half the majority of this game. But then there was a very scary moment, at least for Loons fan, including myself. The fact that when I saw Dane Sinclair went down and had some treatment of what either is a cramp or a knee injury, yeah, that was a scary moment, because we cannot afford to lose Dane Sinclair. I think that was more of a cramp as well. Keep in mind, he was with the Canadian national team. They did go to Europe to play a couple of friendly as well, so maybe he's a little bit tired coming back from this game and maybe suffer from some cramp. Hopefully it's nothing serious as well, because they really need him. Consider this team does not have a decent starting backup goalkeeper whatsoever behind Dane Sinclair. Pellegrino would then hits it high from close before Lozano hits a one-hopper right to Dane Sinclair. The shots were 10-1 for San Diego up to this point. And again, I have no idea how this is still 0-0. And you know, if this somehow gets to halftime 0-0, this would be one of the biggest miracle play that the Loons have ever pulled out this season. Though, to give them some credit, they did start to kind of ride out the pressure a little bit. And I think maybe a big part of that is they did start to make some adjustment and become a little bit much tighter on the defensive end. Or maybe it's just the fact that San Diego started getting frustrated. I don't blame San Diego for this because, again, you know, you had so many opportunity up to this point. It's going to get into the psyche of a team when you're missing all these chances. Just like what we saw with St. Louis, when the fact that despite putting 40-plus shots in the game, eventually it's going to get into the psyche, the fact that it's just kind of one of those days where you just cannot finish whatsoever. Dreyer would then puts it high from close in the 3rd minute stoppage time before Dane Sinclair would deny Dreyer, but then it fall back to him and he had an empty net to shoot, but then it was clear off the line. I mean, that just kind of sums up the first half up to this point for San Diego, and also kind of just sums up for the Loons in the first half. I mean, it's pretty much just Houdini act after another, and also mostly performed by Dane Sinclair. The fact that somehow in some way they had to halftime scoreless between them and San Diego. Now in the second half, McNair had a free kick that was deflected and goes right to Dane Sinclair before Dreyer would clip the post on the free kick. San Diego kind of picked up where they left off, putting more pressure on the Loons, and the Loons continued to pick up where they left off, which is struggled to even hold on to the ball. Valicari just puts it wide from long range. There was a shout for a penalty for San Diego, not given. Almost an hour in, Minnesota still have only one shot up to this point, compared to 16 that San Diego has, and 6 of them was on target. Pellegrino then hits it right to Dane Sinclair, despite he had another big opportunity from the top of the arc. Again, this is why the Quakes release him. This is a guy that just have no confidence whatsoever in front of goal. Right now, just cannot buy a goal whatsoever. Dreyer would then hits it right to Dane Sinclair in the 67th minute. It was kind of an off night for Anders Dreyer as well. I mean, the creative department was definitely there from Anders Dreyer, but in front of goal, he, along with pretty much every single San Diego player, is just not at it whatsoever in this game. Lozano would then puts it just high from long range. The shots were now 22-1 in favor of San Diego. Again, I don't know how, but somehow the scoreboard still said 0, and the fact that, again, I still kind of had that belief up to this point that eventually this pressure is going to pay off for San Diego. And with the way that as we head into the last 15 minutes, this is usually kind of the nervous time for the Loons, because they have given up a lot of goals in the last 15 minutes this season. I just kind of feel like all this pressure that San Diego has put, and with the way that Minnesota has pretty much been on row heave mode since minute 1 in this one, it's going to break them, right? Well, in the 73rd minute, Pereira had a free kick that was actually spilled by Dos Santos, but it goes out for a corner, as that was only Minnesota's second shot of the first one since the 20th minute. And I don't blame Dos Santos for that spill as well, because, again, he hasn't had any action whatsoever, and I don't think he was expected Pereira to hit that free kick from that long range. But that would be key in this one, because literally on the ensuing corner, and really I think this is the first corner that Minnesota has had in this one. It might also be the second as well. They did not have a lot of corners in this one, but what is a rare corner for Minnesota, they capitalize, because of course they do. They're the set piece king of MLS and the world this year, as Marcanic would score from Pereira to make it 1-0 in favor of Minnesota. So completely against the run of plays and completely against all odds, on only the third shot of the game for Minnesota, they make it 1-0 in favor of San Diego. This is why I like soccer, and this is why this is a game that, you know, just because you're the better team, you don't put your chances away and you leave your opposition in the game like San Diego did, it's eventually going to get punished. And it did get punished in this one. So that made it 1-0 in favor of Minnesota, and that really breaks San Diego as well, because just 3 minutes later, Carlos Harvey would score to make it 2-0 in favor of Minnesota. the 30,000 inside Snapdragon Stadium, which is absolutely stunned. Besides some celebration from the Minnesota fans, there was a lot of Loons fans that travel for this game as well, which kind of makes me very sad because I feel like I probably should have gone to this game as well instead of being here in Minnesota. But yeah, I mean, they were in stunned silence, and I'm pretty sure this entire San Diego team is in stunned silence and pretty much completely shell-shocked right now, because in a game where they had 22 shots in this one, and at one point out shooting the Loons 22-1, they're down 2-0 in this one against Minnesota. Bear would then heads it just wide from close in the 81st minute. It's just not San Diego night. Like, up to this point, that's when I finally had a chance to write that. I didn't want to write that because I feel like I'm just going to jinx the Loons because of it. Yeboah was in on goal there, but he was denied by Dos Santos in the 82nd minute. If there's an example of Yeboah clearly have no confidence whatsoever, that is pretty much a great example of it. If that was Yeboah last year, he would have easily finished that one. He would have just either round the keeper or chipped the goalkeeper like that. But because he has no confidence whatsoever, that of course happened, and that's kind of the concerning thing. I think you got to say with this Minnesota team, the fact that they have to get Yeboah going. Yeboah cannot be having the number 9 curse like what we see with previous number 9 from Minnesota, just not able to finish in front of goal when we really need him to do so. Duo would then hits it right to Dane Sinclair. There was another shot for a penalty that was not given to San Diego, but then the second minute of stoppage time, Minnesota would make it 3-0. And you remember in the first meeting when Anders Jarre scored that goal from the halfway line, chipping over Russell Spiel to make it 1-1 in that game against Minnesota back in Allianz. Well, looks like Trinidad's basically repay the favorite in this one, because he decided to do the same thing that Anders Jarre did in that fateful night in Minnesota a couple of months ago, as he decided to hit one from the halfway line, and he's able to beat Dos Santos there. And by the way, that's his first career MLS goal as well. I think besides the Zlatan goal that he scored on his debut in that Al Traff goal, this probably might be the best first career MLS goal I've ever seen by a player. I mean, that is definitely a way to introduce yourself to Minnesota United by scoring a long range goal. In fact, I think that's the first time I've ever seen a Minnesota United player scoring a long range goal like this, or score a goal from the halfway line, chip the keeper from halfway, and put it into the back of the net. What a goal that is. What a way to cap off of just an unthinkable night for Minnesota in this one. I mean, if you would have told me up to this point, like even 20 minutes ago, that this team would be 3-0 up, despite at one point getting outshot 22-1 and just getting absolutely outplayed in this one, I wouldn't believe you whatsoever. That's what momentum can do to a game, and that's what is it just kind of feels like it's a very, very Minnesota kind of thing, a very Eric Ramsey kind of thing, where they're going to bend and break. They're going to take a lot of punches throughout this season, but they're going to keep that identity of, we don't care about possession, we don't care about how many shots that our opposition put, we're going to survive the pressure, and somehow we'll find a way to get a goal from the set piece, because that's just the Minnesota way this season. And so far, as much as people want to say that this is not sustainable, it still is with this team. I mean, I feel like it's getting to the point where I don't think you should even question the fact that if this is sustainable or not, because as we're now into September, in the last month of the season, the fact that they keep doing this over and over again, I think it's safe to say that it is definitely sustainable to a point where they could actually be a real threat once again in the Supporters' Shield race as well. Dane Sinclair then denied Lozano from close in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, but in the 5th minute, San Diego eventually did get one back. Verskov did score for Lozano to make it 3-1 in this one, but that was too late up to this point. The only player I think will be very upset of that is Dane Sinclair, because, yeah, with a night that he has in this one, he'll be very frustrated that he didn't get a clean sheet in this one. And it also doesn't help the fact that the Loons back line just completely switched off in that moment. But nevertheless, Minnesota does get the 3-1 win in this one. They're now just 2 points away of getting that top spot over San Diego, though unfortunately they don't control their own destiny, even if they pass San Diego as well, because I think Vancouver still control their own destiny in terms of getting themselves in the top spot. But nevertheless, look at the shots in this one. 28 shots compared to 6 that Minnesota has. 5 shots on goal compared to 13 that San Diego has. 7 shots off target compared to 1 that Minnesota has. No shots on block compared to 6 that San Diego has, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Minnesota has in this one. And normally, I say for a team that has this kind of stats, it's kind of bad luck for the team, and it's just maybe one of those nights for a team that just aren't able to be clinical in terms of finishing. But I think if you're San Diego, yes, it may be one of those nights where the finishing is not there, and this is probably one of the better attacking display that they have shown, because when you look at the last couple of games, they have not shown this kind of attacking threat that they had in the last couple of games. But again, the same result happened. They're not scoring the goals right now. I mean, as much as I know they've been relying on some devil magic in the last couple of games, somehow getting wins that they maybe have no business in terms of. And I guess maybe this is kind of like a little taste of their own medicine that San Diego is receiving, getting a win that maybe or getting Minnesota getting a win that they have no business in terms of getting it, pulling a little devil magic of their own. This is a little concerning, the fact that San Diego is struggling to score goals for this team. They need to have that, and especially if Anders Schreier is not scoring the goal and carrying this team, which unfortunately he didn't do so in this game, that could be a huge problem for San Diego, because there's really not a lot of player on this team that is really pulling the weight. And when playoff time comes, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the best team in the West, when they do face against San Diego, the recipe is somehow, some way shut down Anders Schreier. If you can shut down Anders Schreier, you can probably shut down the San Diego team, and it's kind of proven in this game. Even though I know Minnesota, I wouldn't say they did the best job shutting down Anders Schreier. I mean, Schreier had his fair amount of chances to finish it, but if you can at least shut him down of trying somehow to keep him out of the score sheet on the assist chart, you have a chance to win the game, and that's what Minnesota did in this one. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all of these games. A bit of a long one that is, but hopefully it's one that you guys enjoy me listening to. We're gonna do part 2 of the review. Maybe not tomorrow, that is, because I have a lot of things to do tomorrow. Maybe I'll do one on Monday. I think I'll do it on Monday. I'm gonna be in St. Louis on Monday as well, before doing another crazy road trip, driving down to Nashville to watch that semifinal of the U.S. Open Cup that is. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.